I'm happy to be here. That's sort of a bizarre opening statement, but I'm really happy I got here. Me and Laurent, we were stuck in Seattle for some time on our annual strategy meeting. And one of the major topics was cloud computing. Patients refer to it, no pun intended, but we have been spending our time discussing the cloud. And then obviously we got here just in time. Now, I've been in the company talking digital, internet, consumer, change media behavior for 14 years. I can tell you, we've seen more bottlenecks than just this little cloud over Europe. It's been a really tough journey to convey advertisers, to convey brands and agencies that something is happening in this world. Something is happening with the consumer, and technology is becoming really very key to that changing behavior. I got 5 minutes more from Charlie, so on the plane I thought about this thing that happened 12, 13 years ago, while I was touring around in Belgium into every single small village, small city, talking about digital marketing. One evening I arrive, 8 o'clock, rushing to the event, and there's like one guy in the room, and I go like, wow, that's not a big audience. Shall I just quit, or shall I just, no, I said, let me be my professional self. So I did all my presentation, gave every single bit of energy I'd still left at the end of the day. The guy had actually very interesting questions at the end. Then after a while I thought, let's stop here, and I said to the guy, I think I'm going to go home. No, wait. Could you stay another 30 minutes? And I said, yeah, why? I'm the next speaker. So we come a long way. The times have changed indeed. I've been to a lot of conferences lately, and the major theme is all about resetting an industry in transformation, rewriting the rule books. It's quite similar topics, basically. Most of the time, I go back home with way more questions than answers. And what also strikes me is that very few people, a lot of people talk the talk, very few brands walk the talk. And it's fantastic to see Jack and his examples here on stage. I think there's a missing in these conferences around brands who really demonstrate what they do, how they do it. Not only why they do it, not only what, but the how. How have they executed on the idea? So I wanted to give you a little bit of a flavor of what we do with 20th Century Fox on the how. What does it really mean to do a multi-channel campaign? Technology is obviously key to this industry, and at Microsoft we've lived some decades on how technology has changed the way consumers live, the way they socialize, the way they do business. And advertising is no different. We are a strong believer that technology is totally key to the future of this industry. And I'm going to get back to that later. So speaking of partnerships, I think the word partnership is probably one of the most overutilized words. I think it's a word of huge value that we use in a very simple way. Everybody talks about partnership. But if you would go to Wikipedia or you Bing partnership, you get statements like creating value. You get things like going very deep with each other, creating value for each other, doing common research, influencing product development both ways. That's quite meaningful statements. That's just not a loose supplier-client relationship. So how do we move away from that traditional relationship and really go deep both ways? And so that's what we try to do with Fox and partners like Coke, as Jack mentioned. Now, the other thing before I get to where I want to go is, it's a statement, it's like an open door, but it's all about people. This is Bettina Sharrock, to the left that is. The other one is Cameron. Why is Bettina so important? And by the way, she wanted to be here. She couldn't be here, not because of the cloud, but because she had a very important marketing meeting at 20th Century Fox, which she needed to lead. Now, why is Bettina so important? She's been in this role for 4 or 5 years. And the number one thing that I learned is stability, continuity of leadership. I always question myself, how can brands talk about strategy if their CMO drops off and change jobs after 18 months. Let's talk about short-term goals then. A strategy is where you know where you're going. I hope you know where you're going. And then you adjust your goals and you set your expectations every 6 to 12 months. But continuity of leadership is really so important in this new world to take your brand through that transformation. And Bettina has been doing that brilliantly for Fox. The second thing is all about, digital is all about doing, testing, learning, and then doing again. It's like doing, testing, learning, and doing it again. And it's Bettina became a very, very good partner, but also a very tough partner, because she knows what works, she knows what doesn't work, and they have very opinionated ideas around what they want to achieve and what we have to do with that. But it's basically, again, it's the stability of the partnership, of the relationships that makes it really important. So let's watch a little video, Changing the Rules, 2 partnerships, Bettina, and you also see John Landau. This was shot 2 weeks ago because they couldn't be here. And they're going to set up the rest of the presentation for me.
From a digital perspective, one thing we knew is that we needed to go big or go home. We couldn't go back into that toolkit of digital goodies that one might want to automatically go to. We had to really think out of the box. When we started talking about the companies that we needed to partner with to help us go big, we obviously looked to the big players in the digital space, such as Microsoft, Google, YouTube, Facebook, our sister companies from the News Corp family, like MySpace.
I think the time is right to do a movie like Avatar now for several reasons. One, you have the digital capacity on the production creation side, where we could create worlds and put up characters on the screen, the likes of which people have never seen before. But we also have the digital projection on the distribution side.
I think Microsoft has an interesting proposition to the consumer because there's so many ways that they touch the consumer. There's obviously the portal site, which internationally is very important. But then they also have the Xbox platform and Xbox Live, and they have ways for us to reach that consumer that may not necessarily be watching television. And lastly, there's of course the Windows Media mobile platform, which is something that we experimented with in 5 countries for this release.
The way we chose to manage the content on Avatar, especially for the stage, was through a database system that we created with partnering with Microsoft Services using SQL and the like, and created something we call Gaia. Gaia was really the hub of everything that we did down on the stage. Every take was fed into Gaia. The information, the time of day, who was in it, what assets were being used. And then Gaia would send out to others workflow information, saying, okay, you computer artist, you now need to work on this shot. Go access it, pull it up. That was our repository. That was the backbone of the production. Thanks to creating a dam with Microsoft, we were able to share our assets with partners in video gaming, with partners in consumer products, with partners in home entertainment and marketing and throughout. It became the central hub that all these people were able to tap into for their use of our assets. Most people get their first information about a movie online, whether that's watching a trailer, whether that's reading some news about it. And I think we as an industry have to embrace the online experience and roll it into all of our different marketing opportunities. You know, no longer really is it about what the critics write. It's what do people Twitter? What do people, say in their blogs? And if you don't embrace them, they're not going to embrace your film.
One of the things that this film has done for us is now we can go to Microsoft and say, hey, have you thought about this? So it really is now a working partnership.
Think out of the box. Be original. And I think if advertisers and marketers think this way, that they will be successful in whatever campaigns they run. People used to say things were beyond your imagination. With technology today, nothing is beyond your imagination.
How technology is transforming a process that basically has been the same for years in movie production companies. So that's basically the first dimension of our partnership. And I'm not sure whether many of you knew before John mentioned it, that on the technology side, we're a prime partner for the production. In a virtual production, nothing is photographed. You know. Every single leaf you see in Pandora, every single facial expression, every tree is data. And so obviously half of the movie was created virtually in 3D, and then you've got the real actor shots in 3D. And that generates like a ton of data, and ton meaning a petabyte of data. And if you would go to Wikipedia, you know that a petabyte of data is 1,000,000 gigabytes, 1,000 terabytes. That's just tremendous. So they needed a system a digital asset management system to really categorize, manage, store, easily access all of the data to actually then produce the movie. And that's what we did for them. Now, John mentioned as well, and that's really interesting, that the Gaia became really the digital hub for the entire movie assets. And then basically that becomes a repository for other creations. So Ubisoft, as he mentioned, Ubisoft used the same assets for the creation of the PlayStation Xbox game. Multiverse created a game for the internet. They created Facebook applications. Well, that's all based on the same assets that are stored in Gaia. The same for all the microsites, the same for the advertising creations, all came out of Gaia. And that's really really interesting. And if you think about a world in advertising where you go multi-platform, where you really start creating brand stories across multiple platforms, the single data repository is going to be more and more important. So I thought that was a great example of the theme of the conference on the way the movie industry is shifting in Hollywood. And obviously we're really interested, Microsoft is really interested in that, and we just re-signed an agreement with John Landau to move forward on the next productions that he's going to do. So basically, producers don't want to invest in IT infrastructure. Why would they invest and manage and have all that heavy equipment? What are they going to do with it when the movie is done? So that's why cloud services really become important. And it's funny because when we have conversations offline with John and James Cameron, they actually say, we actually want to outsource all of that stuff. You know, we want to focus on the artistic project, and you guys do the IT. And IT is basically .NET framework applications running on SQL Server in the cloud that enable them to do their job. And basically, that's not much different from advertising. And maybe that sounds bizarre, but it is not. Because in a world of multiple consumer touch points, of changed consumer behavior, it's all about data and technology on the marketing side. Business intelligence is driving decisions. It's the same for Jack and his world of media planning strategic planners. It's all about data. It's all about consumer insights and touch points. What are they doing? Where are they doing it? And it's also the same for the creative agencies, because tools like Silverlight and Expression give them better ways to come up with a better brand story online. You just saw the Coke example. That would not be possible without the technology. So what is happening in the movie industry is exactly what's happening in the advertising industry.